When discussing your architecture, you use words and phrases such as vibrant space between reality and imagination. We always strive to respect the past. This time you mentioned collapse of form. You also talked often about clarity. You use the word simple, universality. The whole world is a grid, intuition, open, flexible. How else would you describe your architecture, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
I think the first statement you said, that it's between imagination and reality. I think for me, every idea that comes to the world in your mind is so beautiful, abstract, and then you try to download it and make a reality out of it. And it's never what it should have been. You have very, very big dreams, and then when you realize them, they're not exactly what it is. I think even the Greeks said that about art, that it's an imitation, it's not the real thing. The philosophy is the real thing. The philosophy is where like everything is possible, it's open, it's like abstract, and you bring it down to reality, there's a compromise. And the challenge is basically not to collapse to reality. If you collapse to reality, you lose the architecture.
When discussing your architecture, you use words and phrases such as accessible, restrained, holistic, dynamism, open space, quiet urbanity, maximizing public space, park-like environment, a dialogue between architecture and landscape, juxtaposition of rationality and sensibility. Here in this conversation, you mentioned pure geometry. How else would you describe your work, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
In our practice, I think we try to adopt a holistic approach to architecture, landscape, and urbanism. In my studio, it's very interesting, the design solutions that sensitive to the context and the surrounding environments. For the most part, I think we're interested in the creation of a unique spatial experience, especially with a strong focus on the quality of public space, connectivity, etc. So for many of our projects, we try to find ways to connect architecture and nature.
When discussing your architecture, you use words and phrases such as clarity, consistency, grid, modularity, structural regularity, restraint, spirit of optimism. How else would you describe your work, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
Very important part of my work is the material. So it's one of the bases of our work that we try to really understand what the material partly maybe also requires. The other one, as I mentioned, is the history, that I believe that what we are doing is part of the history. We are like in a line with others. We somehow have a certain responsibility for being part of that line within a kind of evolution of architecture. I believe that every building site is already existing. So in any case, your project, your intervention is a kind of extending what is already there, trying to continue with those characters, parameters that are already existing.
When discussing your work, you use words and phrases such as peaceful, joy, tranquility, individuality, a peaceful atmosphere, and a sense of connection to nature and between people. How else would you describe your architecture and intentions behind it, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
I strive to shutting the connection with nature, creating a kind of architecture that is harmony with the nature, connecting and touching the emotion of people. It's what I tried. When I study at the university, there is a big influence from the modern architecture of the Westerns. And after I graduated, I tried to copy it. So after the time, I think that it's like something fake. It's not real. It's not belong to me, belong to my place. So I try searching for the connection with nature, creating a kind of architecture that is harmony with nature, connecting and touching the emotion of people.
When you speak about your architecture, you use phrases such as conditioned openness, urban complexity, non-determined spaces, possibilities for surprises, no form, no style, no ideology, sharp edges, campus-like, spatial continuum, and unexpected present to the people. And I'm not afraid of the future. How else would you describe your work, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
Well, we try to achieve an architecture which is open for utilization now and in the future. And we say we cannot figure out and say what the future will be like, but it has to be like a kind of frame or like a structure. And that's why it's always this play of determined and non-determined spaces. So trying to make the determined spaces as small as possible, so to have a lot of space for the non-determined. And this can be anything from, say, a cafe to a yoga studio, from a museum to a school, or you name it. And it can always change.
When you speak about your building, you use words and phrases such as simplicity, solidity, weight, uncompromising, no isms, authenticity, a sense of surprise. I follow my instincts. We have been searching for our own expressions. And finally, I want to be critical, not regional. How else would you describe your work, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
This station questions, challenges the very idea of regionalism or critical regionalism. Should we go for vernacular styles to claim our authenticity? Should we always, take references from regional or cultural aspects to claim authenticity? I never believed so. What architecture should be look like, what architecture should conform to external expectations.
Going beyond this project, when discussing your architecture, you use words and phrases such as individuality, meticulous, uncompromising. We use this, you used it several times already in this conversation. Maximum integration with nature, floating in the air, complementing the landscape, playfully irrational twist, you mentioned in one of the conversations, and already in this conversation you said harmonious aggressiveness. how else would you describe your work, and what kind of architecture do you try to achieve?
If we talk about the kind of architecture I want to get, I do not have a recipe for that. Every location comes with its own specifics. I approach this question anew every time. Sometimes it seems that I'm powerless because I do not even understand how to proceed from there. Every location, every environment, every client comes up with their own issues, and there has to be a new approach. But there is one line that connects it everything. Maybe that's called the handwriting. I'll have to reiterate. I strive towards laconism in my architecture. I clean up, I polish and hone to arrive at simple, clean forms and volumes. And I lose textures in interpretation, lining, plaster, rock interpretation. These are very important attributes for me. Every location asks for a different approach. So I do not have a universal recipe or a matrix that would apply to every project. But since it's me doing it, well, handwriting emerges apparently.